existence.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Radiant Black Podcast. This is a podcast focused on Radiant Black and all things Massiverse by Kyle Higgins, Marcelo Costa, Becca Carey, and Michael Basuto. Today, I'm joined by my friend and my fellow co-host Matt, but I'm also joined by a very special guest and one that we've wanted to have on for a long time now. And
what was it? Something like 36?
37. I mean, if you know, you know. We're just gonna leave it there. Yeah. Without further ado, I want to announce the incredible TFG1Mike, but you might know him as the Podcast Machine. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm surviving. That's about as good as I can tell everybody nowadays. But yeah, I've been doing the podcast thing for about 14 years. It's been one hell of a journey.
I can't even imagine. I mean, we've been doing it for just over a year now, and it's been quite a journey for a year, and I can't even imagine the journey you've been on. I mean, you've been to Mordor and back at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
I want to ask, as someone who has a ton of experience with podcasts, how many podcasts are you currently a part of or working on?
Well, brief history, I started listening to podcasts in late 2006, early 2007. And by November, December of 2008, I was like, I can do this. I can sit here and talk to myself and give my opinion. Because at that time, I was just doing it. At first, I was just doing it solo by myself. So initially, I thought, oh, please tell me you both have seen Good Morning Vietnam.
I know the phrase.
Robin Williams. Okay.
I need to.
In that movie, he plays Adrian Cronauer, who was the radio announcer, the radio DJ. Okay. In the beginning of that movie, before he takes over, there is a different announcer who sounds like this. Today, the weather will be 42 degrees and winds at it was like this really, really robotic, stiff. So that's what I thought I had to sound like in the beginning. So the first 11 episodes of my original podcast, because I started with Transformers. I'm a huge Transformers fan. I reviewed all 98 episodes of the original Generation 1 cartoon, but the first, I think, 11 episodes of that is me by myself trying to give my opinion on it and not knowing what the hell to do, and just, it sounds like garbage. It really does.
Those men who lost equipment in last week's rains are asked to contact Lieutenant Sam Shear. Lieutenant Shear asks those men with waterlogged mitts to make every effort to dry them out in the sun before requesting new ones. Bookworms. Headquarters Support Activities Saigon operates libraries at 6 locations in the Republic of Vietnam.
Hello there, and welcome to the TFG1 podcast. My name is Michael Blanchard. I will be your host for the next 50, 60, 70 or so episodes. I don't know how long this thing is going to be. This idea came to me because I have absolutely tons of extra time on my hands that I waste with sleeping. I'm not kidding you folks. I sleep probably 16 hours a day, off and on, throughout a 24-hour day. So I figured, why not just write up a whole bunch of crap and talk to people about it? Basically, what the TFG1 podcast will do is review the entire Generation 1 cartoon of the Transformers. I am a Transformers fan. I have been a Transformers fan since I was a little kid. And yes, like most of us Transformers fans, I cried and threw a fit when Optimus Prime got killed in the movie.
So it's been a learning curve, and I found I eventually joined social media, Twitter, Facebook, all that, and I found Stephen C. Phillips, who is my co-creator, my best friend. We created the Geekcast Radio Network. Currently, we produce, we, as in the whole network, I want to say 10 podcasts, 10 individually different podcasts, and we've got video content, we've got written content. With the podcast side, because for me it's when I think of a podcast is audio. It's something you listen to. It's not something you watch. It's not a YouTube video. It's not a live show. It's not anything you'd see. It's just an audio recording that is pre-recorded, edited, and then published kind of thing. So for me, I liked audio podcasts, and I like producing them and whatever else. So just off the top of my head, without going through everything, we've got Altered Geek, which is Steve's show where we give our opinions on various geek news and things like
Sick
that.
Title. Like playing Altered Beast, right?
Yeah,
Altered Geek.
Something like you'd have to ask him that story.
No, that's
I don't
sick.
know.
That might have
Yeah.
been the Sega Genesis of that idea, but that's dope. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, so there's Altered Geek. There is the overall flagship show, Geekcast Radio, where that's generally our big show. That's generally the show that we were like when we first started out. We were doing stuff like, oh, let's do an episode on back in 2009 when we started. The iPhone, I think 3GS or 4 was just about to come out or something. So let's do an episode on the iPhone. Let's do this. Let's do a history of Batman. Let's do this. Let's do that. So it's kind of the bigger thing, and it's also where most of our interviews go. The Pull Bag is about to celebrate 10 years next year in March. I started that in 2013 because I've always been a cartoon kid. I liked comics. I enjoyed comics, and I'm 42 years old. I'll be 43 next February. So I'm old, and I've experienced a lot. I feel like Wendell here. So with the Pull Bag, I didn't want it to just be your standard comic book podcast where every episode was a review of a comic book. I wanted to find a way to, discuss things, not just news topics, but whatever. So I found this format that I call Origins, and I know everyone else has used Origins. I think even like there was a Sony Origin thing or something, whatever, but it's the GCR and Origins now. But originally it was the Pull Bag Origins. It was 20 for you guys. Both of you know I've already had you on. But like for the listeners of the Radiant Black podcast, it's 25 questions about how people got into or out of reading comics. And we talk about, I ask these questions and I say, hey, what do you like? What don't you like? Who are your favorites? Who are your favorite writers and all this? And we just have a fun conversation about comics. There's Toycast, which has Origins, and the toy collecting Toycast Origins are the most in-depth questions. It's 42 questions. Takes about 3 hours to record that thing. We've got one for cartoons. We've got all this stuff. We have a TV podcast our TV review show that we started back in 2010 called The Telecast. That's done by my buddy Optimus Solo. He doesn't do it that much anymore. It's kind of retired. So we've just got 14 years of content, folks, at geekcastradio.com. I guess I shouldn't bury the lead with the interviews, really. I guess I really shouldn't bury that lead. I have had and a lot of the rest of us have had the opportunity to talk to people like David Kay, Maurice LaMarche. Actually, Maurice LaMarche, I always have to tell the story because this is why I say my podcasts are audio only. They are edited and then published because in case anything happens in the recording that you don't want in there. So this is why I do that. This is why I've been doing that since 2010 or whenever it was that we interviewed Maurice LaMarche, voice of the Brain from Animaniacs and all that.
Static Shock, basically any black character in animation, like 50-50 shot. Maurice LaMarche was doing it like 10 years ago. Like Hermes Conrad, like iconic voice. You've heard her voice for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So at that time, we were in between Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. Arkham Asylum, the video game, had been out for a while, and Arkham City was about to be announced or had just got announced that it was happening, but no other – like – these standard news site announcements like, oh, Arkham City, they're working on it now, more details soon kind of thing, just so they can get clicks.
Nothing articles.
Yeah, essentially. So we had him on, and when we have a person on for an interview, we get their story from their beginning when they were, like, did you always want to be an actor? Did you always want to be a voice actor? What is your favorite type of voice acting? So this is the question that brings back to the Maurice thing. What is your favorite type of voice acting? Animation, narration, video games. We list all these various examples of voice acting. And he said, oh, it's funny with video games. It's just you in a room talking to yourself. And he said, without any prompting, he said, yeah, I just got out of a session where I was voicing Mr. Freeze in the upcoming Batman Arkham City game. I stopped for like half a. Yeah, I stopped. It never. Nobody had heard anything about who was. Obviously, Kevin Conroy was going to come back and voice the Batman for that, but like nobody else had heard anything else for other characters. I stopped for like half a beat, and I followed it up with, "Can you give us a sample of the voice?" He's like, "No, I can. I'm not even sure if I should tell you that I'm even in it, but yeah, no, NDA and everything else." I edited that interview so damn fast, got it online, and then I went out grocery shopping with my mom at the time.
Yeah.
I get home, my phone, my computer, my email, every single piece of my technology was blowing up. And nice. Steve was like, "What the hell did you do? What happened? Why is this So a little I don't even know what the unknown site was. Little unknown site picked it up as a news article bit. Oh, Maurice Lamar. You know how, like, if you listen to any podcast now, like a perfect example is the current thing. My current obsession is Pod Meets World with Danielle Fishel, Ryder Strong, and Will Friedle. They're going back through Boy Meets World and whatever. So they'll say stuff about the show and about their experience. So websites will take some of that and like bend it to their own will of, oh, well, they said this on this podcast, and oh my God, it's so, some unknown website picked it up, and then IGN picked it up, and it went nuts. And I'm like trying to get a hold of Maurice LaMarche. I'm trying to get a hold of his agent. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I can change it. I can fix it. I can take it down, whatever you want me to do. And Maurice eventually replied, he's like, it's out there. There's nothing we can do about it now. Because once IGN picks up something, you can't erase that. You just can't. You can't go back in and edit it and change it and whatever. Kevin Conroy. We interviewed Kevin Conroy. And I know this might sound... This might sound bad, but it isn't. He has the most interesting September 11th story I've ever heard. Like I've heard a bunch of September 11th stories, but his, with the way that he told it on that interview, was just, I absolutely love that. We talked to Lauren Lester, voice of Robin, Nightwing, and he's been in a bunch of other stuff. Rob Paulson. We've talked to him. Josh Keaton. Josh Keaton. Awesome. Spectacular Spider-Man, Green Lantern, all that stuff.
When you got the scoop, how many years had you been doing the podcast before the Maurice LaMarche thing happened?
Let's see. I'm on the page. Where is Maurice's face? That's the easiest way to find the dang thing.
It was around 2011 when the game dropped, so yeah.
Yeah, so that interview was probably somewhere around there. It was like maybe a couple of months before it, maybe? I'm trying to think. When was that?
No, but that's really amazing that you got such a story like that like IGN's covering and stuff like that. And they didn't credit you, did they?
I think that I would have to go back and searching through IGN to find anything is just a nightmare. But
well, you know what they say, you can't spell ignorant without. No, I'm just kidding. But, but at least they didn't say you had too much water or anything like that. We know they're IGN most reputable source of everything. But no, that is amazing that they said that, and to break that, and it's the best Arkham game too, right? Like that is the best of the Batman Arkham games.
Yeah,
am I speaking out of school? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, we published that April 16th, 2010.
No, that's awesome. So it just goes to show that you put in the work, you never know what's going to happen. You get, to be getting Maurice LaMarche, you've already made it in my eyes, but then you get a drop like that, and then boom, it explodes, and here we are. So that's amazing.
We talked with the late, great Lord Zed. We had Zed and Rita on for an episode. We had Barbara Goodson and Robert Axelrod, who is no longer with us, who was the voice of Zed. We talked with him. I've talked to Neil Ross a couple of times. I've talked to Starscream's daughter, Abby Collins Cluster. She is Chris Latta's daughter. I'm still waiting on her to give me her version of the Starscream voice. She never did it at the time, but I asked her. I said, so is there a female version of what you think your dad sounds like? She's like, yeah, there is, but I can't do it right now. I was like, oh, okay.
So you've already had me and Bash on. Who, other than us, who is the dream guest to have on to interview?
Oh, man. Okay, well, I will answer that, but I will tell. I'm going to start with some Shattered Dreams because I have been a Hall & Oates fan since I was born and since I knew about them. In 2011, Daryl had just released his album at the time, Laughing Down Crying. So we are 2.5 years into the network. He releases this album. I send his management the standard interview request template that I have. I always say I can cater to whatever time they have, and I'll move because I have no schedule. Podcasting is my life. That's all I do. So and they just came back with, and I wrote on that I'm a huge fan. I've been a fan for years. Blah 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 blah. Oh, Daryl isn't doing phoners right now, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? We've been kind of sort of chasing Mark Hamill for years. I mean, we have Batman, we have Robin. We need to get the Joker eventually.
You got some massive names though. I mean, if Mark Hamill's like within your grasp, like that's like no big deal to, it's like it's a potential to get Mark Hamill. That's pretty good.
And the funny thing is, it's a potential, but it just depends on what he's doing and things like that. Let's see. I've talked with probably over 10 times the Transformers musician Stan Bush. I have at least 10 interviews with him over the years since 2008. Yeah. I talked with both voices of Jem, Samantha Newark, who is the speaking voice, and Britta Phillips, who is the singing voice.
You had Kyle on, right?
Yeah, had Kyle Higgins on.
So that's a good segue to our next topic, which is like, how did you come to find out about Radiant Black then?
I follow Kyle. I've been following Kyle since New 52 Nightwing. So whenever he posts something or says something or whatever else, that's how I was like, ooh, okay, let's check this out. This is what Kyle's doing now. That's great. That's awesome. Let's look at it. And
have you read his other critical titles?
Oh yeah.
How do you think Radiant Black ranks for you among them?
Okay, so how many are we talking? Like Cowl and what was the other?
He's got Ordinary Gods, which is.
He's got I have not read Ordinary Gods. So between Cowl and Radiant Black, they are two very very different things. So they I don't like putting things like Cowl is superhero labor union in the olden days of Chicago. Radiant Black is we don't know what it is yet. You won't tell us, damn it.
That was the most natural segue to we don't know what it is without making a meme of it, but yeah, it's true. It is. We don't know what it is.
What it is yet. And so yeah, I just like the way he writes. I think before Nightwing, the first thing I read of his was when he was co-writing with Snyder on Gates of Gotham. Gates of Gotham is easily my favorite before New 52 Batman story.
Great story. Yeah. Underrated, to be honest.
Very much so.
Yeah, very underrated story, and highly recommended, actually. So, yeah, I mean, you recently read all the Radiant Black issues, and, you're a big Kyle Higgins fan, so that's always fantastic. Which one of your issues of Radiant Black out of all 18 that have come out so far is your favorite, and why?
I gotta say, issue 3. I'm gonna give you 3 choices because issue 3, issue 10, and issue 18. The most recent issue 18. So issue 3, I've been writing stuff since I was 14. I have been writing. I've tried to write short stories. I've tried to basically. You read issue 3. That's what I was like back in 1994 at 14 years old. I was trying to figure out what to do and how to write the thing and how to do the thing and whatever else. By 99, I had about, 4 or 5 different books of full poetry books that I had written. Hadn't had any of them published. Oh, and that's the funny thing. 1999, I tried to get published. Don't ever go to a subsidy publisher, folks, because they want you to put up the $10,000. They don't pay you. You pay them. Subsidy publishers, don't do it.
We got apps now. We got Poetizer. Well, you can publish a book for free without any honor. You had to work for it back then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Well, the funny thing is there was a company, I think they're, what are they called now? America Books or something? I don't remember. Back in 2006, 2007, there was this company called Publish America. You could submit to them, and whether they chose it or not, you went through. I have 3 books of poetry published through them.
Hell yeah.
Poems that I wrote sometime between 97 and 2004. And they were published between 2006 and 2009.
What genre?
It's mostly lovey-dovey BS. It's
Yeah.
mostly teenagerish BS. Like, I mean, it's good. It's somewhat thought-provoking, but it was more of like, hey, I wrote this when I was 15. I wonder if I could get it published kind of thing. And I have my files, but I don't have my files up where I could just pull one up on the spot to say, hey, this is one. I know that I wrote one of them about, because I'm originally from Boston. I'm originally from Kingston, Massachusetts, which is an hour and a half south of Boston. So I'm a huge Red Sox fan. I wrote one called, and then I know there's a Kevin Costner movie called this, but I wrote one called For the Love of the Game, and it was all about my love about the Red Sox, and it was just in free verse poetry form. And they always say you have to learn about something before you can do it. I have been learning about poetry since elementary school. I cannot do haiku. I cannot do iambic, whatever the hell the iambic contaminator thing is.
Iambic pentameter?
I can't do that. I just write it and I put it in a stanza
You format it.
So, yeah, sometimes I rhyme, sometimes I don't. I wrote one for my dad. I wrote one about September 11th when that happened. So yeah, I mean it's kind of like a generalization of whatever I'm feeling at the time kind of thing.
Okay. If you're published, I've been wondering this myself. If you're a published poet, are you also a published author? Like, what's the difference? Are published poet, published author? I don't know.
I mean, I guess I just know I have books out there, and they called me an author. So when I was looking at the contracts, when I was looking at this, that, like, for me, the difference between an author and a poet, a poet is somebody who, number one, didn't know it, and number two, they go out and they give performances. So, like,
you need to go to spoken word places where they have the dim lights.
Yeah. So,
fair enough.
Okay. I don't know. How big of a Tom Cruise fan are either of you?
I mean, I like to watch people run in movies, so I've seen all of them. No, I've seen quite a few.
Have you guys seen Cocktail?
I haven't.
Okay, this is from 1988. This is Cocktail. It's Tom Cruise, Brian Brown, Elizabeth Shue is in it, and he calls himself the last barman poet. And he like you're talking about the spoken word stuff. He just jumps up on the bar and does all this song and dance with poetry type thing. So yeah.
Last barman poet. Give us a kiss, you sexy beast! Go for it. I see America drinking the fabulous cocktails I make. America's getting stinking on something I stir or shake. The sex on the beach. The schnapps made from peach. The velvet hammer. The Alabama slammer. I make things with juice and froth, the pink squirrel, the three-toed sloth. I make drinks so sweet and snazzy, the iced tea, the kamikaze, the orgasm.
Ooh, hands up the merchandise.
The death spasm. The Singapore sling, the ding-a-ling.
Ding-a-ling?
America, you're just devoted to every flavor I've got.
Ow!
But if you want to get loaded, why don't you just order a shot?
I think the difference is the author of poetry is someone who writes it down, who maybe posts it on Facebook or makes an image and posts it on Instagram, or maybe, goes to one of these apps now, apparently. You kids and your apps. I remember when there wasn't apps.
I'm waiting for the entree. Like, the apps suck, dude. But yeah, can go.
Yeah, exactly. We went from 2 cans and a piece of string to Google Pixel G2 tensor sensor stuff. Go ahead.
That's a poem right there.
Is that part of why you like Radiant Black number 18? Because I see a lot of present, and past kind of.
Yes and no, but it's also okay. So getting back to the like thing. So issue 3, writing day, obviously. Issue 10. I was a Dare kid. And for those that may or may not know what Dare was, drug abuse
Before was an
resistance.
ironic shirt. The people that did not follow Dare for it. Yeah.
Exactly. So we had a police officer come into our elementary school like once a week, and he would go through all these things, and he would say, Dare and McGruff the crime dog were essentially the same thing as a child for me. Like,
I was just going to bring up McGruff.
Yep. Absolutely. So I've never smoked. I've never done any kind of drugs or anything like that. Have I had alcohol in my life? Yes, but I do not drink. It's not something like I've tried it various times, but it's not something for me. So I guess technically, I'm a straight edger, I guess. So with and the reason why I'm saying all of this is because I'm not that. When I just look at issue 10, I'm like, oh my God, my eyes are bugging out. This is like the biggest acid trip. And this isn't even this is without turning the black light on. This is just looking at the book. And I'm like, this is the best comic design that has ever been in the last 90 years of comics.
Shit. I mean, where's the lie? Like, really, it is really phenomenal what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. And then issue 18, it's because we like up to the point of, let's say, 14, 15, 16, 17, we saw Satomi's story, we saw Eva's story, and it's like, okay, when are we getting to Wendell? And we all know now how the series goes. Issue 6 was the origin, issue 12, it's like every 6 issues you're going to get something that isn't like what's going on in the main part of the story. So when issue 18 came out, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I'm not somebody that I've read comics where you have the main artist and then you have somebody else on like the past or the future or something. So it's the main artist throughout and then the present timeline. But if those keep flipping back and forth too fast, like if you have a shot of the present and then it flashes back to the past and then it goes back, I don't like that quick time jump. But the way they did the timelines in 18 and the customization, you guys talked about it in episode 36, of that special edition that they're doing, of that it's just this fold out, I'm going to say it this way, Monopoly board, because I saw the black market narrative stream that he did, and he's like trying to unfold this in like his kitchen, and I'm like, dude, that's like a bride's wedding train or something. Like, oh my God.
Exactly.
But this is why I like issue 18. Not only do we get Wendell's story in various forms, we are getting things in comic, like DC's never going to do something like that. Marvel is never going to do something like that. Do they do special edition stuff? Yes, absolutely they do. But man, let me tell you, and you guys know, hello, you are the Radiant Black Podcast, and boy, do I have a story about that. But they do things so differently that it is so cool that I hope everybody listening to the sound of my voice gives Radiant Black a try, because it is so... I'm a person that I rely on nostalgia and continuity, and everything must align, and I'm not... I don't like change. I don't like doing new things sometimes. And a lot of times, I don't like trying to have to learn about new comic book characters.
Yeah.
MCU, Endgame, okay, the story's done. Yes, there was Hawkeye. Yes, there was Winter Soldier. Yes, there's WandaVision. I am not a fan of the Loki character in general. I never have been, so I don't really give a crap about any of the Loki stuff. But basically, my point is, Endgame was the finale point, and now they're trying to restart and do this whole thing, and I'm just like, do I really need to learn about the Eternals? Really?
I don't think anyone actually did. I think they still, if you can leave the movie and name the whole cast, they should make you an Eternal. Anyways, not to shit on it has been a mixed bag post Endgame, and I think that there's been an increase in quantity, and I don't think the quality is maintained.
Speaking of all because I'm obviously delighted to hear that you're enjoying it so much, because obviously we do as well. And you're right, it has been incredible, innovative, and I do highly recommend everybody to check it out. We've given away, God knows, like I think we've given away more copies than anyone, than anyone of the comics. But yeah, but my question was, who's your favorite Massiverse character? I feel like I already know the answer, obviously, but it's worth asking, and why?
So I read Supermassive, and that was kind of my introduction to the rest of the Massiverse. Because, like I said, I mentioned to you guys off air, I have not caught up with Radiant Red. I have not caught up with Rogue Sun. I read comics to talk about them on my podcast, and right now, the hosts I had for Radiant Black, I'm in the middle of transition. I just moved across the country from Washington to Indiana. I don't even have I'm using my kitchen table right now in my living room. I don't even have, I have this whole 6 foot by 9 foot desk that I use for podcasting and whatever else. So yeah, but I read comics for podcasting. So for me, a favorite oh God. All right, well, I gotta say, huh?
No gun to your head.
No, I know. Well, this is because talking about characters is going to lead into why I am 37. So, I liked Nathan. I thought he was cool. I thought he was interesting. I wanted to see more of his story. And then that red jerk had to drop a building on him. And I know he's come back, and now they're sharing it, and it's Radiance Black and all that and everything else. But when I first started reading the comic, I was like, oh, Nathan is Dante and Marshall is Randall. Dante Hicks and Randall Graves from Kevin Smith's Clerks.
Yeah.
I heard Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson. I heard those voices in my head as I was reading it. And I like them both, but I don't know. It's easier to tell you who I don't like in the series, honestly.
I mean, we want you to get out of here alive, and Twitter might come for you. I mean, that comment about Radiant Red calling Satomi Satomi's got a rabid fan base. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's what Marshall said. I mean, that's what Marshall said. That red jerk. That's what Marshall said. For sure. I like Satomi. I think she's a cool and interesting character. There's only one character the entire book, and you guys are probably going to just be like, okay, podcast, screw you. Huh? Nope.
Is it Sheer?
Nope.
Who? Let's hear it. Is it Kathy? Because she didn't make that much of an impression. That's just a meme, and I'd be okay with it. Who is it? Let's go.
It's fucking Kathy. Oh my God. She's just the godmother. She isn't this special agent entity thing. She's just an old woman who we barely see. And the bad thing is, my mom, who passed away in 2015,
named Kathy.
Is Kathy. So it's I don't when I was reading today to catch up, I got to the Kathy scenes, and I'm just like, oh God, somebody just shoot her with a radiant blast, please.
I know, luckily Kyle's forgotten about her too, on the podcast, oh, Kathy, unless he's throwing us off and that's endgame goals, in which case you might have to get off Radiant Black right now. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's shitty. And I've been easing up on the Kathy, but yeah, unfortunately I don't think it's Pandora's box, and I don't know if that can return. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's not...
box.
Yeah, Kathy's box.
Okay.
I know we are explicit around here, but that's going a little too far.
At this point, do the hashtag Kathy now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You guys are the ones that are going to get dry. I'm not doing that. Nope, not even.
We'll see what makes the final edit. Anyway, no, but.
So I'm assuming you're caught up, right? You've read everything. You were talking about 18. You were right 18. So have you seen the Radiant Black versus animation? And if you have, what did you think of it?
Yes, I have seen it. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm like, okay, cool. You got Cowl, you got Radiant Black, and then all of a sudden, let's see, Batman from Batman Beyond, Bumblebee from Transformers, Eric Matthews from Boy Meets World shows up as the voice of Radiant Black. Are you kidding me? That's amazing.
And you read Cowl when it came out, right? When it was released?
Oh, yeah, we covered it. Yeah, we covered
you've got
the
the
whole
nostalgia
series.
baked in.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like a big pop. That was really
When
cool.
those action figures showed up, I'm like, don't destroy those. What's wrong with you?
That's really cool. Yeah, it's awesome. Everyone kind of has their own like jumping in point. Like there's a lot of like Power Rangers fans that are into it, but this is kind of like Power Rangers for new generation, kind of like the Orville is my Star Trek. You know, there's these IPs that kind of borrow a bit and do some remixing, and they have some more freedom. And I don't know, that's what I really dig about the series. I'm not a Power Rangers guy, and the series just kind of works for everybody on different phases of their lives.
Yeah, go ahead, Bash. So what we're gonna say.
Sorry, I was just gonna say I heard someone refer to it as Adult Swim Power Rangers.
Yeah, it kind of is, but it's so going back almost 9.5 years now. When I interviewed Kyle, he was only doing New 52 Nightwing at the time in 2013. He said in that interview his ultimate dream goal would to be writing Power Rangers, and he would write it more serious than the show was. Look where we are now in 2022, almost 2023, almost 10 years later. He made his mark on the series with Shattered Grid and everything leading up to it with Lord Draken and all that stuff. He did Cowl, which is, based off his short film The League. He's got Radiant Black now, and I mean the man is just awesome. And everybody he has ever collaborated with or pulled in to be a collaborator for him, like, man, the teams that this guy puts together, they just kick ass. And it's so good. And that's what's so great about it, is because it is so good that you need to, like, it doesn't, like, I have not read his Ultraman stuff yet, and that's only because I haven't really, like, I haven't caught up to that kind of stuff. But, like, almost everything, almost every major, and I'm not saying Ultraman isn't a major thing, almost every major thing that I've followed him or that I've seen him do, I'm like, I like this. I like what he's doing. I think it's cool.
Dark Hawk?
No, I need to read that.
Like 6
really
issues.
Good.
It's good. It's really good though. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel the same way about Kyle Higgins. And ironically, like, the first CGC signed comic I ever got in my life was a Kyle Higgins signed book. And it was the Nightwing New 52. It was the cover with the evil Nightwing holding Nightwing, and the issue where him and Babs are fighting that stupid guy. I forget.
Is that Prankster?
Something like that. It was issue like 6 or something. I'm gonna.
Oh, it was issue 6. Okay,
I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah, that was the earlier. Yeah, that was the beginning of the story. Yeah. I remember that because
issue 6 or 7. It's one of the earlier issues.
Okay.
I remember getting that one signed, and it was just like, yes, I was so happy. But I've always been a big fan of Kyle Higgins. I still feel bad that his Nightwing run got short.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking about this for like the next 15 minutes since you brought it up. So his Nightwing run, oh my God. He and I are on the same wavelength when it comes to Dick Grayson and Nightwing, to the point where we both hear Lauren Lester as the character. That's the only voice that we hear. And I actually, when I interviewed Lauren, and I'll have to send you guys the clip so you can insert it somewhere, probably, or wherever you want, whatever.
Now, I love s'mores as much as the next guy, but I'm fresh out of marshmallows. What do you say we call it a night?
I actually had Lauren do a line from one of Kyle's Nightwing books. So I'll have to send that to you guys, because it's just him saying the line. He doesn't say, hey, because normally when I have celebrities do promos, I'll say your name, like say, hey, this is blah blah blah, and you're listening to whichever show they're on. And yeah, Nightwing knew, like, I need, like, so his run ended, and I firmly believe that his run ends at issue 29. I know it goes to 30, but that 29th issue, at the end of that, with the safety, oh God, I can't even talk about it without breaking down and crying, because it's so good. I wanted him to be able to do Amusement Mile. He said something about part of his storyline for Nightwing at some point was going to be doing Amusement Mile in Gotham, I believe, and I wanted him to be able to do that. And who knows, maybe one of these days he will, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. But, what he did with it was so good, and it was so fun, and it was so great. Like, for half a second, I thought he had me thinking Grayson and Gordon were going to get together, because they're like, oh, move to Chicago, go to Chicago with me, do this, do that. And she's like, really? What will we do? We'd start over. We'd start new. We'd do this. We'd do that. So,
I mean, they are together now, though.
I have not been reading the 2016 issue, the one that has the 96 issue. I have not been reading that. I need to. I got a lot of catching up to do, guys. So since I started the pull bag and since about 2017, I've gotten married, I've moved, blah, 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 blah. Sadly, my wife passed away, kind of thing. So there's been a lot of life things going on. So there's a lot of I just, as of this recording, I just recorded a New York Comic Con recap with my buddy writer Pat Shand. Pat worked for Zenoscope for a while. He did the Robin Hood books. He does Destiny NY, which is one of his greater own things. So I just finished up a conversation with him, and I was telling him that, okay, well, next year I'm going to catch up on all your books, and if you see an entire 3-month period where the pull bag is nothing but Pat Shand titles, that's me catching up.
That's awesome. I mean, are there any comic books other than Radiant Black that you're currently keeping up with that you really enjoy?
For me personally, the Murphyverse, the White Knight stuff.
Oh yeah, good.
That is my Batman. So I'm keeping up with Beyond the White Knight because I'm loving what he's doing with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Also,
Ash wants me to read it for the last name alone. If there was a, I
think Charlotte Gordon Murphy is just extremely talented overall.
Yeah.
Like underrated almost. I know he's not really underrated anymore because everyone knows about him, but I still think he's underappreciated.
Yeah.
There's too many Murphys. I want to name my firstborn Charlie Murphy, but then he's going to get called. I might actually do it. We'll see. One thing I just noticed, we were talking about Higgins' Nightwing run, and we know I can't not think of the red suit. And it's kind of funny that the first two Radiants we see are black and blue and black and blue and red and black, like the two Nightwing variations. So I don't think that's intentional, but it's a nice little thing to think about.
Oh, I think it's intentional.
Or it could just be wild speculation, but yeah, I mean,
I want to believe it's intentional because
I need to believe, but no, Lauren Lester. I mean, I feel like I also hear that voice. I mean, I like BTAS the most in DC. I feel like that's what really brought me into comics before. I mean, I was into comics before, but that's what really kept me there, I guess. So.
Yeah, see, that's the same thing with me. Like, cartoons were my way. Like, I knew of comics, and I had, like, Spider-Man 94. Every time I would watch an episode of, I'd be, like, back in, like, Walden Books and the gas stations and that kind of thing, looking for Spider-Man comics. And that's how I found out about Spider-Girl, was looking for, like, because with Spidey TAS, it's like, oh, they're doing a Kingpin story. Oh, I want to see if they're doing that in the comics or whatever. And that, So, cartoons led me into comics, and the one thing that originally we started doing comics on the flagship show, Geekcast Radio, and my buddy Steve Megatron, he showed me New 52 Batman 13, that main cover, which is the Joker's face, which is the ripped off and the whatever else, and I'm like, okay, you got me hooked. I'm going to start a comic book podcast. By the time we finished that run from issue 13 to 17, Death of the Family, I was like, yeah, we can't keep doing this on the main feed, so we're just going to have to start a comic podcast. And at the time, we didn't know which one of us was going to take it over or which one of us was going to run with it. I ran with it. I literally ran with it. We've covered every thing in the Phase 2 IDW Transformers books. We've covered Back to the Future. We've covered every single issue up to issue 100 of the IDW Turtles books. There's just, when you've been doing this for 14 years, there's a lot of content. And again, one of these things that I don't want to bury the lead on is, have you guys ever tried to look at the IGN Top 100 animated series list?
No, I mean, I didn't even know they had one, to be honest.
Do they update it annually? Is it like
I don't think so. I think they did it once and that's it. So back in 2009, I think, we were looking around, and my buddy Optimus Solo, who's done several shows, he right now it's on hiatus, but he does a show called Cinema Geeks with us. It's him and his wife and a couple of friends, and they talk about movies and things like that. But he pointed me to it, and he was like, I just wasted like 20 minutes of my life. Because the IGN Top 100 Animated Series list is 100 clicks. You have to click through 100 of their website pages.
Oh, I
Every
remember.
single entry.
It's like their superhero list. I remember now. Yeah.
Yep. So he saw that and he's like, okay, there's got to be a better way. And he worked on it, I worked on it, Steve Megatron worked on it, the three of us worked on this thing. And what we wanted to be able to do was, instead of having people come to our website and just look through like you know how sometimes you'll go to a website and you'll click on an article and it'll say, oh, this is a 5-minute read or a 10-minute read, or it's only going to take you so we didn't want people on our website that were going to just read the listing
the headline and skip the meat of the issue.
Yeah. Well, we didn't want them just scrolling down and I'm just using this as an example. I'm not saying this is where it would be, but like Ren and Stimpy is number 100 and Doug is number 50 and this is number this, and then we didn't want to just people to read a list. So we came up with an audio format. And we have done, from that point up until today, 7 different top 100 countdowns, and they are all podcast-based. These are usually 6 or 7 podcasts in the series. We usually go 20 entries at a time. We compile, we collaborate, not compile, what the hell did I say? We collaborate with a number of people on each one of these things. So it's not just us. It's not just me, Steve, Kevin, a few of our other friends that work. We just finished Transformers last year. We collaborated with 33 other websites and people and things to come up with the top 100 Transformers characters countdown. In total, I think, if I remember, with the Transformers one, I know it's about 11.5 to 12 hours of produced, published content. That took me 100 hours to edit all of that.
Yeesh.
I'm a machine. I'm a podcast machine. But the point in bringing up the top 100 countdowns is that they are so fun and they are so interesting, and everyone will have an absolute blast with them. Let me just run down the ones really quickly that we've done. I mentioned the very first one, which was the top 100 animated series. We have the top 100 animated films, and I specifically, even though Optimus Solo wanted to put of all time on these, I didn't, because if you just say top 100, like the GCRN's top 100 TV shows, okay, fine, that's our top 100 TV shows. It's not, we feel like they are of all time kind of thing. All right, so animated series, animated films, TV shows, animated characters. Are you sensing a pattern here? Top 100 villains, top 100 wrestlers, and Transformers. The next one we plan on doing, which I don't know when we're doing it currently, is the top.
Did you do Chris Benoit on the list of wrestlers? Did he make it? If you just the wrestler, he would have to be on there despite Jesus.
Despite
I was a kid growing up with Chris Benoit. My first WrestleMania, Eddie Guerrero and Benoit hugging at WrestleMania 20.
Yep.
So it was some rough Monday Night Raws those next couple of years later. I'll tell you that much.
It was.
Rest in peace, Eddie Guerrero, not Benoit.
I'm pretty sure he made it. I don't remember where he positioned.
I mean, as a wrestler, he's got to be like.
Yeah.
Not to bring up bad.
No, yeah. The next one we're going to do at some point is the top 100 toys countdown.
Ooh.
So we are still working on that. Are the
kids going to know what that is? They'd be like top 100 iPad apps or whatever. I guess we call toys. No.
Yeah.
I want to see how the Slinky ranks. I'm invested. Power goes out, you still got a Slinky.
There's so many 80s things that are not like the action figures, like you're saying, and I know the Slinky was out before the 80s, but Slinky, Silly Putty, Play-Doh, Light Bright. I mean, there's all these things. Like it's just crazy. So yeah, we're in the process of the behind the scenes of doing that, and I don't know when it's coming, but it is the next one that we are going to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So We talked about Joker earlier, and obviously Radiant Black is a series that's got a lot of interesting characters, including some really wicked, cool villains. Which one of the Radiant Rogues is your favorite so far?
I know I just tried to read all 18 issues. Remind me who they are. Like, I know Excel is one.
Yeah, Excel, Sheer, Doppler, Shift, Mecha,
Yep.
and
Okay.
yeah.
I got to go with Doppler. Her story was interesting, and I am all about sound. So yeah, I really dug Doppler. I thought that was great.
I like Doppler too. I feel like some are more fleshed out than others. Like Guy's the most fleshed out, but also you've got that connection with Doppler. Did you read the Shift side stories?
Which issues?
Image.
They're in Image 1 through 4.
No, I don't think I did. No, I didn't.
There's some cool stuff in there, especially if you like Doppler. There's a nice little element in there. Definitely recommend it. But yeah, Doppler is my favorite too. If I'm looking in on it might actually be Shift because he's hilarious. But Doppler is like low key, like rising in the ranks with everything she does. I love her implementation in the story, and I feel like she's got to turn at some point.
Yeah, and again, just the villain of I assume you've at least seen maybe one episode of Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman.
I mean, I've seen a few.
Okay, so there's an episode where it's this character. It's not Sting, but I swear to God, it looks just like Sting, and he's a
wrestler.
Singer, not the wrestler, singer. And he's this guy, this musician who basically wants to be like what Shriek is in Batman Beyond. And he has this song called Wall of Sound, and it's like that's Doppler. It's a wall of sound kind of thing. She uses all these sound things, and I just think that is so cool.
Yeah.
I want to see her make sound clouds and just rain sickness.
Yeah, she's definitely one of the better ones, in my opinion. And I mean, I think they're all cool, but I think she's one of the more top tier of the villains. She's a super interesting character overall, and just can't wait to. I'm always excited to get more Doppler and the
Absolutely.
books.
It makes me think of Big Bang Theory because that's how I know what the Doppler effect is, unfortunately. But yeah, because it's a sound wave, whatever. Anyways,
yep.
Oh Jesus, headphones dropping. But yeah, I do think that Doppler is top if I'm gonna make a shitty pun. Yeah.
So I mean, if there was one, what do you call it? Basically, if there's one comic book that you could write, okay, in all of comic books, you get to write. There's hypothetical scenario.
Yep.
Your dream, no bars, no issues whatsoever. What would you pick? Any company you want.
It would be a Nightwing Red Batman Beyond Radiant Black crossover. And I'm not saying that just to say it, but seriously. Because each of the characters that Kyle has worked on have just been so amazing, and they've done so many different things. I would love to see that kind of team up. A Terry McGinnis, Dick Grayson, and I guess either Nathan or Marshall. How is that? How the hell does that work now? Have we figured that out yet? How they're sharing the
Not entirely.
We're playing it by ear like they are.
So I got one last question for you here before we close it off. But if you could have one Radiant for yourself, and it could be any color, including a color that hasn't occurred in the comic book series, which color would your Radiant be, and what kind of powers would you want?
Well, the powers is easy. I want Radiant Black's powers, but it would be Radiant Purple. Because I am all about black and purple. Dark purple. If you guys ever see, I can send you an image, but there's an image of Transformers character Galvatron from Season 3 where he comes out of his plasma bath and, the plasma drains off and whatever else. And it's this close-up of his face and his characterization, his animation, his color. It's very, very dark purple. Yeah, so that
sounds badass.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
What do you think? Yeah. Speaking of badass, what do you think is the most badass thing that's happened in Radiant Black so far?
It's God. There are just too many things that have really happened. I mean, I like
when he got charged up.
Yeah,
killed Bao. That was pretty deadly, but looked cool as hell.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm really digging Radiant Pink. I think Eva's a really cool character. I think the whole teleporting thing with her, I think that's fun. But the moment for me that like just makes me like just sit back and be like, oh, it's when it's in like it was an issue. It's when Black and Red are fighting. It's either issue. Yeah, it's when the two of them kind of like fly at each other. I have the screen cap.
Right? It's issue 5.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah, I love the way Marcelo and Becca and just everybody did that flyaway. Or that fly collision thing. I thought that was really, really cool. And they have so many good covers. Like there's like, you know, just so many of them. And
not like Marshall sitting on the porch blowing smoke. Like they're legitimately good covers.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, before we kind of go, I want to bring up one last thing. When did I ask Kyle in the Discord, or did I ask him on Twitter? So when the first trade came out, it was right before the first trade. Sam Ewing did music for the soundtrack for the first 6 issues. And I went and I bought it on Bandcamp, and I transferred it over to Spotify, and I have a playlist, and I have it's the Radiant Black. Oh, it's either 4 or 5. It's the variant cover where he's like lit up, but he's holding his fist up kind of thing. I don't know. I'll have to look for it and figure it out which one it is. But yeah, I mean, the music that Sam Ewing did for Radiant Black, like I asked Kyle, I said, are we going to get one for volume 2 and volume? He's like, no. And then when he did the Black Market narrative thing the other night, or however long ago it was that they did the first Black Market narrative stream, I just politely, I said, hey, Kyle, any news on any new Radiant music? I need more Radiant music. And he said, yeah, I really can't talk about that right now. So he didn't say no. He did not say, like the first time I asked him, like on Twitter or wherever it was, he said, yeah, no, that's not happening right now. So back then he said no, but this time he didn't say no. So I'm like, oh God, let's go.
I don't know for sure, but I think just based on some social media interactions and things that have been said, that he might be working with Bear McCreary, who's a composer right now, working on Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Battlestar Galactica, God of War, Foundation, Walking Dead. Yeah, just a lot of 10 Cloverfield Lane, a lot of good stuff. So, and they are following him on social media and everything. So I feel like we should keep a close eye on that scenario because there might be more developments there in the future.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Absolutely awesome.
I do agree that the Sam Ewing songs are just incredible. Like I listen to them quite often, and there's some people who back in the day when we first launched the Discord server who just like gave us the idea and actually mentioned it to the rest of the community that, you know, you could listen to the trailer and the other music as you're reading each issue, which is something that you did today, and you basically got the maximum effort reading Black effect.
Yep.
Oh,
I'm waiting for the VR helmet issue where you just put it on, and or like like it's amazing. I want an issue that's just like one of those like little sliders, little like slideshow things with like the little like binoculars that you put up your that's what I want an issue to be. But I'm ridiculous.
And it's funny you say that, Matt, because I've referenced this like 5 times in podcasts recently. Back when the PS2 was coming out, there was an advertisement where they were like, oh, it's the future, it's the PS9. And they just kind of like put this plug into this guy's head where they're like, by PS9, we're just going to be feeding it into your brain. You won't need a console. It will just be, I'm like, yes, please give me a Radiant Black. Basically matrix me up into Radiant Black, put a cord in the back of my head, and let me live in the massive verse, please. And yes, it was issue 5, the variant cover for issue 5, where he's just holding his fist up and he's glowing and it's all blue, black, and white.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the piece d'existence when we can finally go to existence with like a big tube in our head, and then we're like bald and we have no eyebrows. That's what I'm for.
can't wait.
Oh
I can't
no.
wait.
Well, I mean, I've always wanted to just stay bald. Every time I shave my head, I'm like, oh, why is this crap growing back? Because I don't like dealing with my hair. I'm not an Eric Matthews. I don't swing my hair around all the time. Yeah, no.
It can be a pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I love that variant cover from issue 5 is because it's done by Serge Acuna. And
I love Serge Acuna.
Yes,
Oh,
I knew about his art stuff on the WWE stuff from Boom that he had done. So yeah, absolutely love that.
He actually did some variants for Nightwing recently, and they're really nice. Some of them have Damien and Bruce, and dude, he's just fucking killing it with Babs. Even love Serge Acuna. Honestly, I think he's super underrated. He even did the annual for Flash 2022 annual, and it was like his full debut for I think his full debut for a full interior for DC, and it was just killer. So yeah, like love that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, this was fantastic, and we're just right now closing up on an hour, so I love it. Love it that we've been here shooting this shit, and it's like I said earlier, it's been long overdue. Mike is clearly a very cultured individual.
No, I'm really not.
I mean, you know your movies. I'll give you that. I mean, you came at us with some Tom Cruise flicks and some other flicks that we didn't even realize.
Published poet.
I had to look at that. Yeah, published poet. Man knows his movies, his comics. He's got his animation down, which gets even bonus points for me because animation is just incredible. It's just simply like you said. There truly is something magical to it. I've never been like a big Transformers guy, not because I don't like it, but I actually do really like Transformers, but I've just never gotten into it because I feel like, 80s people, when they grew up during that era, everyone was into Transformers, but now all we have is the Shia LaBeouf stuff until
No. So after we finish the episode, if you have some time, I can school you. No, so Shia LaBitch is not all we have. Trust me. We have
Sometimes I feel like I'm beneath the enemy scrotum trying to get into Transformers.
Oh, Revenge of the Fallen! I remember you, ugly. Oh,
that's my introduction to John Turturro. That's an amazing actor.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's your introduction to John Turturro.
Well, okay. Transformers 1 and then 2. Yeah.
Oh my. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna talk off air. But the one thing I do want to bring up is that I know everybody, you guys and everybody else has been saying, oh, we want Radiant Black action figures, we want NECA, or we want Super 7 or whatever. Yeah. Well, I agree that would be awesome and great, and all as I want is Kyle and Michael and whoever at Image has to do this. Go to Funko. I want Radiant Black Funko Pops.
I'd buy them all.
Yeah. That's like a given. I feel like once we get to the NECA and the McFarlane toys and the whatever have you, I feel like
Invincible
it's a given.
Funko Pops. Why is it like that's money right there?
Bro, they said Invincible is getting new apparel, merch, video games, all that shit. So like hopefully it's just gonna. I think it's a matter of time. I told Matt before. I'm like, Invincible. It's a matter of like the third, fourth season. That's when we'll see the peak of the people watching it, because that's the peak in my opinion around the time of storytelling. It does it does improve. It stays consistent, but that's like when the biggest reveals happen around that time, and it's like. I think then, people will freak out. Like just season 2, think about like people like Oliver and all that. It's gonna be wonderful. But yeah, I mean, Mike, where can people find you? Let us know where we can find you for the listeners.
All right, I am on Twitter at TFG1Mike. Facebook, my fan page, I believe, is TFG1Mike Presents. Instagram is also TFG1Mike Presents. You can follow at Geekcast Radio or at Geekcast Radio Network on all the other stuff. Our website, geekcastradio.com, has everything we're doing. I don't do video content. I do audio content, so we have a bunch of other people doing some video content. We've got a guy doing gaming stuff, streaming gaming stuff, and I do a lot of, so one of the things that, before we close out, that I want to bring up, that with the written content, and the reason why, when you asked me about the Sean Murphy stuff and all that, is that I was 8 years old when they killed Jason Todd in the 80s. I never knew about Jason Todd.
You didn't get to vote?
I didn't. No, I was 8.
In the voting for if he lives or dies.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what parent's going to let their...
Mom, I have to let my voice be heard. Yeah, I would have marched in the streets for Jason to live. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, not sorry. When I was 8 years old, the only 900 number I was calling was the He-Man and She-Ra 900 number. Thank you very much. Because no, seriously, that's a whole devastated. I imagine
that's a whole podcast I want to do about this whole forgotten thing of 900 numbers, as far as like they had a 900 number for He-Man and She-Ra. You call it, you agree to the payment terms or whatever it is or whatever it was, and they tell you stories, and that's all it is. Or did you know that the Warner Brothers store, so that there's usually an ad that plays right before Batman 89. It's Bugs and Daffy. There are two versions of this. It's Bugs and Daffy talking about the Warner Brothers catalog, because back in the 80s we didn't have the internet. We had to order from catalogs and mail away and all this and all that.
Great for Sears, bad for everyone else.
Exactly. So, you know, in the ad, Bugs and Daffy are talking about everything you can get from the catalog, and you have to, you know, call the 900 number to order the catalog. And Daffy's like, no, they have to call today. They have to get it today. They have to do it today. Blah, blah, blah. Well, later, I think sometime around 90, 91, they changed it from 1-900 to 1-800. So now they're not charging you for the call anymore.
Oh, shit.
I'll send you guys those two different YouTube videos. So really quickly, the Jason Todd thing. I recently wrote up an article called Why I Never Cared About Jason Todd, ... until now. And it is all about, it's just a quick little read. It's all about Sean Gordon Murphy and how he handled he either forgot or didn't know. In the White Knight universe, Jason Todd was the first Robin, and Dick Grayson was the second Robin. So that adds a whole other dynamic to the thing. But in the White Knight universe, spoilers for anyone that wants to read it that hasn't, sorry, he doesn't. They make it seem to be that he dies, but he doesn't die, and he comes back, and he's doing all this stuff. So, yeah, it took me almost 40 years to like and really want to get into a version of the character, and it's what Sean Gordon Murphy did with Jason Todd, Red Hood, that I like the most.
That's awesome. I mean, you know, I'm a fan of Jason Todd. I like all the Bat Family, so I'm honestly glad that that he's been able to get you to like the character in his iteration of it.
Yep, absolutely.
Elseworld stories really get to shine new lights on different kind of characters, and this is great. Like, that's really cool. That actually makes me more interested and want to read it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very, very good set of stories. Now, I can take you guys through the continuity off air if I can do it. It's White Knight, it's Von Freeze, which is the Mr. Freeze story, Curse of the White Knight, White Knight Harley Quinn, and then Beyond the White Knight. So that's the reading order. And literally everything, like White Knight Harley Quinn isn't even Sean writing it. It's his wife, Katana Collins.
Dude, I've been buying all of those.
Oh
weekly.
Man,
I love the Harley Quinn series.
Yep.
I love the whole one. Like, I bought it all. I love the twins.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was super into that book, and I've literally been buying everything Sean Gordon Murphy since the first White Knight, because I agree. Like, it's just such a good take on the character. It's one of the best like Elseworlds Batman stories there is, to be honest. So
yeah, absolutely.
And one, even like, I feel like obviously you know about, and we'll definitely end here, but I just wanted to bring it up because I know you're a fan. But like, I feel like one book that's not mentioned enough how good it is, and just genuinely a good time, was Nightwing, the New Order. Like, that's such a good book. I feel like a lot of people don't talk about enough.
Yeah, that thing killed me. Like, that was awesome. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. This is why I'm hoping at some point, whether Kyle goes to DC or whether DC, I think it would have to be him going to them if he ever wanted
Mr.
to do it again.
Washington?
I think he's big enough now, like with Radiant Black and everything, to where he could like potentially ask, and they would honestly, genuinely consider it, given his history with them and everything as well. But he's also talked about how he's just like bittersweet about the whole DC move.
Yeah, I know he is bittersweet about it, and rightfully so. I'm not denying him that at all. He should feel the way he should feel with the way that because look, I'm going to say this right here and right now. I never pronounced this guy's last name correctly because I just refuse to. Because
Technical difficulties. Let's move on, shall we?
Don't
on the podcast.
like look. I don't want anybody to lose their job or to get fired or whatever. But I'm so glad he is no longer at DC because he always wants to kill Nightwing, and I'm like, stop it, don't do that. But I would love to see Kyle be able to do. I think it was supposed to be called Amusement Mile. I'm probably forgetting. I'm probably saying that incorrectly, but I would love to see what his initial part of the story before he had to change it would have been. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
And Kyle, it's been a decade. Come on the pullback, damn it. Sorry, I had to do that.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, okay. Yeah, he doesn't listen. But if on the off chance he does, then yeah, Kyle, maybe it's time to get on the pullback again. And, Red Nightwing and everything. No, I honestly, I really liked Red Nightwing as a teenager. I thought it was the best thing ever. Now I'm more like I prefer the blue, but I still like the red. There's a lot of people that are like.
I like the blue for the Nightwing New Order was fine because they had hints of red in there with various covers and things like that. I like the blue for animation. I'm fine with it. I would love to see the red in animation, but for comics, for me, it's all about that red, man. It pops more.
I'm more of a BWO guy than the Wolfpack, no, I dig it. Blue's my favorite color, so I'll never like red more. But the red, I think, definitely like has prestige to it. Like the people that really know,
nice.
I think, the red's like
that cover. That Nightwing 1 New 52 cover is, in my opinion, if you're like a Nightwing fan, it's iconic. It's a really gorgeous cover. I remember seeing it for the first time. I was like, holy shit, this is going to be an awesome run. And it was pretty good. So yeah. Thanks for joining us, Mike. Stay reading everything.